Hi there, this is Dan Chewy Mongrain of Voivod. This is my first attempt at a instructional video. So while we're in confinement, I figured it was a good time to start and learn how to do it. So here I am. This video will be about the solo on the opening track of the album The Wake, the latest Voivod release. The track is called Obsolete Beings. I just did a playthrough video of the solo. You can find the link on my YouTube channel. And this video will be about how I composed, played, and about scales and my vision of soloing in general. So I hope you enjoy it. See you in a bit. So I brought this riff to the jam space. I thought it was an introduction riff for a new song, but it ended up being the verse riff of the song. So I jammed the riff away. The drummer, Rocky, the bass player, started to jam along with me and find the right groove to it. And once the groove was installed, Snake started to sing a melody, you know, improvising. And actually the melody he sang was perfect. You know, those magical moments we kind of look forward to when we play music, that was one of them. And so the melody was so perfect that I stopped the band and I said, "What did you sing? What did you sing? And do you remember it?" And he said, "Yeah, I think so. Let's record it right away. It was perfect." And we recorded it, and that was the melody of the verse of the song that you can hear on the album. We decided that the verse riff would be the section to solo over. So I was fooling around with scales and, you know, just improvising, and nothing came up as strong as the main vocal melody. And no matter how hard I tried to write a melody, the vocal melody was always stronger. So I figured maybe I can use this element of the song just to start the solo, because there was nothing better than that. So that's what I did. I started the solo with the vocal melody and I paraphrased it and kind of build up my solo from that point. So the first thing we're gonna do is to check out the harmony, the chords, the riff that's in the verse, and which scale to use over it, or the choices of scale. Let's check that out. First of all, we in Voivod are tuned down a half step, so from E flat to E flat on a 6th string, but I'm gonna call the note as they appear on the neck so there's no confusion for us guitar players. So let me play the riff, the verse riff first, and then we're gonna analyze it and see what are the scales options over it. So here's the riff. As you could see, the first chord is a C major, but including an F sharp in the motive. So the C major is a C major 7 actually, because there's a C, a major 3rd, E, a 5th, G, and a B, which is the major 7. But I'm doing this. This note is the F sharp, so it's a sharp 11 or a sharp 4. So we usually, over that kind of chord, we use instinctively the Lydian scale. That was not the case when I started to solo over this chord, because of the environment. The harmonic environment suggested me another scale. I will explain later. So the first chord is a C major 7 sharp 11. Usually Lydian scale. The second chord is an A minor 9 sharp 11. That's kind of strange. We don't see that often. And when I wrote the riff, I didn't think about analyzing the chord. I just go instinctively with my ears, and then I analyze it for the solo or just for fun. But I don't really care about that. I just go naturally. But what came out was A minor 9 sharp 11. Here it is. So we have the A, the sharp 11 or sharp 4, going to the 5th like an approach, G, which is the 7, and B, which is the 9. As you can see, there is no third in that chord, so we don't know if it's a major or minor chord. But the bass, Rocky is playing a C on the bass line. So the C makes it a minor chord. So we're in a minor environment. So minor 9, sharp 11 would be my best guess. Now, it's pretty unusual to have a sharp 11 in minor chords. And when I did the solo, I didn't think about the scales that much. I just went with by ear, really. But later I found out the scale, and I will tell you after that. The last chord of the verse is this one. So we have an A sharp 11, 5th, major 7, minor 3rd. So I would call that chord A minor, major 7, sharp 11. Again, a sharp 11 on a minor chord is pretty unusual, but there's a perfect 5th in each of those chords, which includes the sharp 11. So it's not a flat 5th, since we have a natural 5th in the chord. So it's really a sharp 11. So we have a C major 7 sharp 11, an A minor 9 sharp 11, and an A minor major 7 sharp 11. Now, we don't really deal with those kind of chords in metal usually, though since maybe the last 10-15 years there's a lot more complex chords in metal. And Piggy, the original Voivod guitar player, was one of the pioneers of bringing those more complex dissonant chords to the genre. And growing up with his music, it stuck in my ear, so it's natural for me to bring those kind of chords in the music. When I started to fool around to create the solo, like I said earlier, I wanted the intro to be strong, and I couldn't find anything stronger than the original vocal melody. So I started with that melody, and over the C major 7 sharp 11 chord, which I thought was Lydian. The Lydian scale is like that. So it's not a mode lesson. If you want to know about modes, there's tons of video about modes on YouTube, but I'll go over some of them very quickly just to explain how I did it. So if you want to hear the original melody, I invite you to go see Obsolete Being video, or to get the song and listen to it. Basically, the vocal melody was something like that. That's pretty much the vocal. And I started with that melody to start a solo. So on the first chord, C Lydian, I did pretty much the same as the vocal melody, and you can notice that I will use my tremolo bar quite a lot in my playing, so it sounds more like singing, like a voice. So that's the first phrase I did. So you can hear the melody, the vocal melody in what I just played. So I used the Lydian scale, what I thought it was the Lydian scale, but my ear went to reach that note, which is not in the Lydian mode. It was natural for my ear to go there. I didn't analyze it at the time, and I figured out it was not a Lydian scale after all, but rather I used a Lydian sharp 2 scale, which is a mode of E minor, harmonic minor scale. It's the 6th mode of E harmonic minor scale. So the Lydian sharp 2 is like the Lydian scale, but instead of only the sharp 11, there's a sharp 2 in it. So we start on C, D sharp, F sharp, D sharp, F sharp. If we start the same scale on E, it would be the E harmonic minor scale. But starting on C, it's Lydian sharp 2. And so that's what I used, because the D sharp probably comes from the other chords we use. This note is the D sharp, the approach to the 5th of A. So it was in the same environment. It's not played or sang. The D sharp is not played or sang over the first chord, but in the whole verse, the color of the D sharp is there. So it was the most logical D to play. The D natural would have felt like something out of the context. So my ear went for it, and how I play it was to bend the B string and pull the bar to reach the D sharp. So there's a kind of a double bending going on. One bend is by the left hand, and the other bend is by the tremolo arm. So there's kind of a fun quality to it, like a singing voice, I think. So here it is again. I use the tremolo arm as well to attack the note instead of the pick. So it keeps the singing quality too, less attacks and more fluidity. So instead of going like that, I'm going like this. So I barely pick the string to make it more fluid. The second phrase over the second chord was also paraphrasing the main melody, the vocal melody. And then the vocal melody went like that. It's kind of question and answer in there, which is a great quality of a musical line, music phrase. So what I did was pretty much doing the same thing, but adding a few notes just to fill in the gap instead of. And I used an open string for the motive, which I wanted to exploit. So that was the first phrase. And I really like the augmented triads that are hidden in the scale over that chord. The scale over that chord, by the way, the A minor 9 sharp 11, I thought it would be a minor scale, but I didn't know again about the sharp 11. I was just going naturally, but after analyzing it, I found out that the scale I used was a Dorian sharp 4, which is the fourth mode of E harmonic minor. So we're still playing the same scale, but starting on a different starting point. That's all the concept of modes, right? So the A minor 9 sharp 11, the best scale to use on it would be Dorian sharp 4 from the E minor harmonic scale. It sounds something like that. You do like a Dorian, but the fourth note is up a half step. It's the D sharp again. Now, I don't really dig that much the interval of minor third there is in the harmonic minor scale. I try to avoid it because it sounds very typical of that scale. It's a very strong sound, and I don't like the gap between the two notes. I play it from time to time, of course, but my ear doesn't like it very much, so I try to avoid it. Though there's one in the solo, this one. That's the step and a half, the whole step and a half. So, yeah, there's exceptions to it. In the Dorian sharp 4 mode from E harmonic minor, there is augmented triads hidden in the scale. The first one I used was like the vocals, but I filled the line with two other notes using an open string. The second motive is another augmented triad starting on F sharp, D sharp, which is the sharp 4 in Dorian sharp 4 mode, open E, that's the major triad right here, but with the G. So we have augmented triad here. So that's the two triads that I used, and with the open string to keep the sound of the motive identical. That's what I did on this chord. Only those two motives before playing over the third chord, which is the A minor major 7 sharp 11. Another strange chord that comes from a different scale this time. I had to analyze it to understand what I did. So the A minor major 7 sharp 11 comes from E harmonic major, which is even more rare. So E major harmonic is like the minor harmonic scale, but with a major third. It's pretty colorful. I like it. I like the scale. I didn't know I use it, but I figured out it's that mode of E major harmonic, and the mode is called Lydian flat 3, which is kind of contradictory because Lydian is usually a major scale. Flat 3 makes it minor, but it's the closest mode, the closest name to the structure of the mode. Lydian implied a sharp 4, a major 7, and the rest of the scale would be the same as a major scale. But then Lydian flat 3 is making the Lydian scale minor, which is kind of strange, but it sounds like that. So A Lydian flat 3. So as you can see, it almost sounds like a minor jazz scale, like a melodic minor scale. except there is a sharp 11 in it. So we could call the scale melodic minor sharp 11 too. It would be correct to say that. But since melodic minor is a historic scale and it might be confusing to call it another way, maybe it's better to use Lydian flat 3. That's only the theory part. The important part is that it sounds good over the chord. So, and all of this was instinctive. I didn't realize I was playing those scales. I try not to think when I write a solo, just go with instinct and my ear. But of course I have the knowledge to understand and analyze it afterward. And it's a very good tool when it comes to arranging, composing, and soloing, and knowing the modes and the notes and the chords on the neck. It's more efficient to find exactly what you hear in your head and transpose it on the instrument. So we have finally on the first chord Lydian sharp 2, on the second chord a Dorian sharp 4, and on the third chord Lydian flat 3. So the motive from the second chord was, and the last chord. So I went to the minor third, major 7, and major 6, which is in the Lydian flat 3 scale. And I really like the color. I really like the color of the minor 6. It's very crisp and bright, and I like it. So I went, and to answer that motive, I went. So the other augmented triad here, but with adding the sixth. If I play those the motive over those two last chords, as you can see, I use the tremolo arm quite a lot instead of picking. I'm attacking with just a scoop on the tremolo arm, or just a little movement upwards or downward. The next part of the solo is over the same chords again. And I started to detach from the original melody and just build up the solo. I really like the sharp 11 and the major 7 on the C major chord. So my ear went like I wanted to emphasize on those two notes. And over that chord. So I just went. A little bit of chromaticism. Is that a word? I hope so. Chromatic motive. I go from the sharp 4 to the sharp 2 of Lydian sharp, and then I go back to the sharp 4, and I go way up in a chromatic way to the major 7. So all those notes are pretty colorful over that chord. The bend that I did here, it's a little bit like to remind us of the same note. This element of the solo in the music, in the verse, is still there. It's still hidden in the solo. But I go to the sharp 2 again of the Lydian sharp 2 mode. And I go with the pinky. I bend with the tremolo arm. And I don't attack the D sharp again, I just scoop in. Then I copy my own lick. B to E. The whole part is here I bend an outside note to an inside note. So the F is not in the scale. It's usually F sharp, but I use F to bend to F sharp, creating a little bit of tension, like a chromatic approach, but bend. On the second chord, I go back to the Dorian sharp 4 mode, and I just copy the lick that I just did. I go just with an extra bend so it doesn't sound exactly the same. And I end up on the D sharp again, which is the sharp 4, in the Dorian sharp 4 mode, which is the color that we want to hear, we want to exploit it. For the next part, I wanted to do something in going down, like a fast line going down. I came up with those notes. But it didn't sound right with the rest of the solo. The rest of the solo is kind of very fluid, and picking all the notes didn't sound good. I tried like this, which was a little bit better, but there was something again that I didn't like about it. And then I tried something I never tried before, and it was just using my tremolo arm to go up a half step on each note. It's pretty hard to control because every string has different tension, so you have to pull the tremolo arm up differently on each string. Like that. Also, the rhythm is hard to get. And I don't pick every note, I just pick the first one, hammer. I only hammer the next notes. And this was all with the Dorian sharp 4 mode, but I didn't know the scale, just went by instinct. And a chromatic approach to C, which is the minor third of the next chord. A minor major 7 sharp 11. I really like the 7th major 7 interval, so I went to reach that note, which is the 9th of the chord. But I did it by bending, so it's more fluid again. And I went to reach the 6th, 5th, 6th, major 7, slide to major 7 again. So you have this color of the same note on different string. It doesn't sound the same. One is more bright and the other one is more round. So the whole thing is the last part of the solo is on a different chord. It's the last chord of the verse as well. It's this chord. This chord is an A flat major 7 with a sharp 4 again. So every chord of the solo has a sharp 4, sharp 11. But the scales are different from one chord to the other. Over that chord, it's really, this time, the Lydian mode that I used. Pure Lydian mode, without sharp 2 or flat 3 or whatever. And I wanted the color of stacked fourth. and I really like the color of this. So it's a very symmetrical pattern on the guitar, and all the notes played in that pattern are part of the Lydian scale, and it's all pretty much all stacked fourth. There's a third here and then a fourth again. And if you copy this fret a fourth higher, all the notes are fitting too. Third and a fourth again. So I can stretch my hand and play. And there's a good quality to it because you repeat some of the notes you just played. So it's C, F, F, B flat, B flat, E flat, E flat, A flat, G, because the interval is different here, G, C, and then C, F. So that's where I based my lick, the final lick of the solo. And I really like the G minor pentatonic over A flat major 7 sharp 11. It has all the Lydian colors in it. Every time you have a Lydian chord and you want to play a pentatonic scale over it, you just go a half step down and you play a minor pentatonic. So A flat being this chord, you just have to go a half step down and play the most played pentatonic scale in the world. So if you know your pentatonic, you can sound Lydian if you want. So I took this scale, this kind of color, and also I mixed it with C minor pentatonic, which fits over A flat major 7 sharp 11, but it makes it sound like a major chord. The sharp 11 is not in that C minor scale, but it's in the chord already, so we can hear it. And the G minor pentatonic includes the 9th, the sharp 11, the 6th, all the notes that we want to hear from the Lydian scale. So both of them mixed together includes pretty much all the notes of the Lydian scale. But the sound, if you think pentatonic, you're not going to sound like a scale, like a usual mode, 7-note mode. The pattern will be different on the neck and it will bring another kind of color. So I had those 3 concepts in the last lick. So I like to fool around with 3 notes per string pentatonic fingering, because it sounds different than only the usual. So you can go like this. It sounds more modern or different. Even though it's pentatonic, it's the same notes, but it sounds different, less bluesy. So I explored this, and I exploited the 4th here, and I came up with that pattern. And instead of playing it square like this, I went more like. That's pretty much what I did. It sounded more organic to me, to kind of, you know, try to float over the rhythm instead of being exactly in you know, 16-note, 8-note triplets, whatever. So there's triplets, there's 16-note, there's, you know, 32nd note triplets. It's all over there, and I know what I'm doing, but I try to make it sound like I'm floating over the rhythm. So the last lick is pretty much staying in the stacked 4th intervals. It's not all 4th. We have a 4th, repeating the note, and then a 3rd. But the motive is kind of imitation of the previous one. another fourth, and finishing on a high note, keeping the note there, full of energy. I often do that. Maybe it's a bad habit, but I like to finish the solo with a high note and keeping the note high, like it's full of energy. I'll try to do differently next time. So that's pretty much what I did on Obsolete Beings, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I invite you to stay tuned on my channel, to subscribe, and I'm gonna try to do more videos like this in the near future. Be healthy and be safe, and see you next time. Thanks.